Now, good afternoon, everyone. I'm the guy from Westport, feeling under a lot of pressure. My name is Simon Wall. I'm the town architect of Westport for the past 20 years. And to give you a little bit of context with Mayo County Council and how it manages its urban settlements, an architect is a member of the town's management team for the county's three primary towns. That's Castlebar, Ballina and Westport. And they're based there full-time, and they're involved in all aspects of decision-making for that town and take a lead role in the management of the built environment and planning. Each town architect is, in essence, a community architect embedded within their town centre. The position of town architect was initiated within Westport approximately 20 years ago, emulating the core community architect template of Clonakilty and Kinsale, which we're all familiar with. It's recognised that the management structure of having an architect embedded within that system has made a significant contribution to Westport's success over the past 2 decades, with three National Tidy Towns wins, and it being conferred by the Irish Times as the best place to live in Ireland. So if it's the Irish Times, it must be true, obviously. This talk is a story of that 20-year journey. We give this talk in town halls and community centres around the country, usually to an amalgam group of chambers, businesses, tidy towns, and voluntary groups, of local authority staff and councillors. And it's really to towns that are looking to focus an evening to launch their own community into rejuvenation. It's usually a lot longer, but we're very limited for time today, so it's going to be a bit of a whirlwind of a talk. And so I'm going to start with us. We're a small town, Westport, on a small island, off a slightly larger island, despite what our neighbours may think, of an ever-expanding Europe. To survive as a small rural entity in the west of Ireland, as Bono would say in his song, we're running to stand still. Every day is an absolute challenge to survive. Westport's economy is driven by the 2 T's, technology and tourism. We have a great multinational in town. They employ 1,000 people, and Peter mentioned them earlier on. We're the planet's old manufacturer of Botox. Do you know what Botox is? I think Joe has some samples for Connor Skean to make him smile on the way home. So it's a big driver for us. It gives 1,000 jobs, and we're very pleased to have it, and we've been building with them for about 20 years. And the other is tourism. We have a population of 5,500 that goes up to 12,500 in the summer months. Westport is a planned estate town. It didn't evolve organically on the side of a river in a haphazard manner. It was planned by architects the first day, and that's what makes it such a pleasant space to be. So architecture can make a very positive contribution to a town, the public realm space and society, and also to people's well-being and mental health, which actually contributes a little bit to yesterday's debate in terms of the mental health of a nation as well. Many people have talked about the area and its surrounds from Tennyson to Thackeray, and Thackeray said it was one of the most beautiful views he'd ever seen. This is back in 1842. However, 150 years later, by the early 1900s, things were very, very different. Like most of the country, Westport was not realising its living potential. And this is the Octagon, the town's main civic space. This is not in your great-grandfather, your great-great-grandfather's time. This is within living memory and how you've changed this town over the last 20 years. What we did, just coming up to the millennium, to mark the millennium, we decided that we would give the town an intellectual gift as opposed to marking it with a piece of sculpture, and commission a town design statement. And this is a visual plan of how the town could expand and realise potential within brownfield sites in the town core. It looked from the very big things, like where new streets and public realm spaces could go and where new houses should be, from the very large things right down to the very small things, like what sort of trees you should be planting, what sort of street furniture you should have. So we were planning ahead, and this was really also to coincide with Section 23 tax designation, which is coming to the town. And we knew there would be a lot of development. We didn't realise the Celtic Tiger was coming. So the combination of the Celtic Tiger and Section 23 tax designation was a huge economic engine for us. And we used our plan, Westport 2000, as a harness on that tiger to structure all the development, to the extent that the Celtic Tiger was actually a very positive experience for the town, which is an unusual thing to say within the national picture. So, harnessed with Westport 2000, about 15 years ago, the first thing we said, we'll tackle the small things from the plan. And we decided to have a go at signage. Advanced warning signage was growing out of the hedgerows like an invasive species of plant coming into town. This is a slide from another county. I won't say where it is. But you get what's happening. It becomes irrelevant, really, with a sign, no matter how many you put up. So what we did is we We designed slimline finger post signs and licensed them for those who genuinely needed them. And we removed all the signs from the corners of the streetscapes and the approach roads. This corner alone, the Knockranny Junction, had 28 different signs. And so all the signs that we removed at that particular time almost covered an acre if you put them flat upon the ground. So individually it made a small difference, but collectively it starts really making a big change to your town. The next thing we said, we start looking at colour. Colour is great. You can spend about €300 painting the front of your building, and people say, wow, you've really rejuvenated your building. You can spend 30,000 in the interior, and people are indifferent enough about it. So you get a lot of value for money. So anyone who wants us to design a colour scheme, they can come into our planning clinics, and we do so. And it's not really to control colour, it's to stop people getting the first bucket of magnolia they have underneath the staircase and putting it up. And so the only thing they have to invest in is to take a photograph and bring it in. So there's an element of commitment. And we started conditioning this with planning applications, again to make people conscious of colour when they're coming in. And you know, it's not about the colour itself, it's about you repaint every year and the buildings are sharp and your town is tidy and there's a sense of pride. So actual colour, hues of colour, in a sense, can be irrelevant. And this makes the point. This is during the Celtic Tiger, is an old shop in Westport. Tom Braun came in and he said, Simon, I have a colour scheme of lime green, purple, orange, pink and yellow. I said, my God, Tom, it'll never work. And it was one of the nicest colour schemes of that period. We also started conditioning out the inappropriate windows, the metal, PVC and aluminium windows, and reinstating sliding sash windows. And over the Celtic Tiger period, we probably replaced almost about 250 of those. Again, small little things that collectively start making a difference in the streetscape within the historic area. We also looked how we would deal with new infills, that they have the same. This is a brand new building in a vacant slot. We'd have a natural slate roof, black gutter fascia and eaves details, sliding sash windows, limestone sills. We discourage projecting lighting, and we try and get it in the cornice underneath the lighting rebated into the cornice. And we generally don't allow security shutters unless insurance companies insist on them with jewellers and banks, and they happen behind the glazing. So it's not a canvas for graffiti at night time. New uses for old buildings. This was an old distillery. It was 4 walls. A carpenter came in wondering what he should do with it. We suggested he would put his workshop on the ground floor, his rental in the middle floor, with 2 apartments. He was a bit of an income, and he has what he calls himself his New York-style loft apartment where he lives on the upper floor. But getting that multi-use functions for buildings within the town core where people are trying to live again over the shop and making the town vibrant after 6 o'clock when the businesses close down. Then, as we were getting more confident, going for bigger and bigger things, we started looking at all the brownfield sites in the backlands. And with Westport 2000, the existing white buildings existed, and the coloured-in buildings didn't at that stage. But we sketched them in just to see how we could fulfil our rebuild in those brownfield sites in the town centre, and getting us more residential, more commercial, and making the town work 24 hours, as opposed to people retreating into the suburbs at 6 o'clock and driving home. And that is the literal manifestation of that. There's an aerial shot of Westport. 15 years ago, you could only walk in the main streets, and you couldn't permeate through the blocks or through the backlands. They'd all been closed in the 50s and the 60s and the 40s. And all the red lines are where we've granted higher densities to developers for residential on the upper floors and commercial on the lower floors. But we also got public routeways through. So today you can permeate back and forth through the town. There's lots of new courtyards, laneways, snickleways, bringing more residential back into the town core. And we also purchased large areas, pre-Celtic Tiger, in the backlands for short-term car parking. But in the medium to long term, we hope to develop them into more building spaces and public ground spaces in the town core. So you can see how you start affecting the town core and make it more vibrant. Just a little glass of water there. So this is one of those new back streets. All our new laneways, we insist on not putting cars in, they're pedestrian only. So you get a better quality of residential on the upper floor, it's less noisy, and it means after 5 and 6 o'clock, you have people living upstairs and there's passive surveillance, people looking down. And it makes for less antisocial behaviour on the streetscape. And then, of course, you can get cafes spilling out and giving a nice continental quality of life, which makes the streets more desirable to be and desirable to live in. After doing a lot of those things with the developers during the Celtic Tiger period, we felt we should look at our own public realm space, and this is Bridge Street. It was a pretty underperforming street. It was good commercially, but it was full of hard surfaces and completely dominated by the car. At the time, in 2004, we decided that we should look at European models where we completely pedestrianised streets. So we said that we would try it on a bank holiday weekend. So we closed the street down completely for 4 days. As part of the consultation process with the public, we decided to bring in trees. So we went down to our local sewage treatment plant, which was under construction at the time, and borrowed these large sewer pipes, painted them North Italian terracotta red, and put them on top of forklift pallets and whizzed them out at 6 in the morning and closed the street down. And it was a fabulous experience. You can see people really enjoying the streetscape. The car had been taken out. The quality of life was a lot better. But our big problem was there was 1 hour traffic jams on all the approach roads. So we discovered that we couldn't pedestrianise, or we could only maybe semi-pedestrianise at this particular time. I like this slide in particular with the cafe spilling out. You'd know it was the Celtic Tiger because you had a sleeveless fur coat. So I always feel it's a nice touch. The resulting plan was we reconfigured the car parking, we introduced the trees, and where we had those backlands crisscrossing in the centre of the street, we introduced a large sort of public round space, which is really a traffic calming ramp, surrounded by the 4 trees. And you can see it here also with various applicants. We encourage the use of a lot of doors on the front of shop front, so in the summertime you can flow in and out from the shops, and you get more footfall going in and out. And this is what happens when you take out 1 car parking space in the middle of town. Look what you start getting in terms of quality of life. You can plant a tree, you get artisans selling goods, you get families pulling in, and you give more space for people as opposed to these metal boxes which are cars. Take out 5 or 6 spaces, you get more seating, you get spaces for parking your bicycle, and you're giving little spaces to pedestrians in the town, giving yourself a better quality of public ground space and a better quality of life in the town centre. This is on the Octagon. Take out 2 car parking spaces. You get this view of a lovely Georgian building with Victorian alterations. You underground the overhead lights. You put in decorative lamp standards. You have a pedestrian access for disability. And you start slowly improving the quality of your public ground spaces. The car has dominated the streetscape so much in rural towns for the last 40, 50 years. And people think that they're very busy if the town is full of cars. I got this slide from an American guy giving a talk, and it shows a typical street in America with, could be Christmas. You feel you're really busy, the town is full of cars, gosh, there must be lots of people in buying. But look what happens in reality. That's how many people are really in town. But look at all the space between these people. That space can be working a lot harder for you in your town centre. You know, it could be doing public ground space, you could have markets, you have all sorts of things there. So the car is important. We need it to get from town to town, but it's really important the place you put it. You put it in the periphery, and you start your historic spaces, you start taking it out and making them nicer to be. And ironically, it'll attract more cars to your town because you become more popular. Planting, this is the way we used to plant to be one of the national tidy towns, and the department sent us on the international circuit. We met the French. We showed them the photos. Do you like our planting? And they said, no. And so we said, well, come to Westport and will you show us? So these guys came, planted a load of bulbs and went home. 3 months later, this happened. And we were on the phone to them. Gosh, will you come back? So they came back 3 years in a row, and they've taught us how to plant like this. It's very informal. Sugar beet, all sorts of unusual things planted there. You know, that traffic islands can also be beautiful. Now, all the little small things I was talking about, I'm going to show how they make a difference over 3 centuries in the same space. This is the Octagon, the town's main civic space. Extremely pedestrian friendly. You could cross the road if you had your Wellingtons. Social utopia. Everybody worked downstairs and lived in the premises upstairs. Every street had a whole series of families. Every street had its own football team, and every street had its own bonfire on St. John's night. And then, if you go a century later, advent of rural electrification, wires crisscrossing the street straight, emigration, people leaving, going out to live in the suburbs, and the biggest social intrusion into any rural Irish town is the advent of the motor car. The car had become king, and the entire public ground space is just a sea of tarmac. Nobody wants to go on their holidays there, and nobody wants to live there. So with all the very small things we were talking about, which don't make a big difference individually, collectively, undergrounding the overhead wires, colour schemes, bringing residential back into the town core, getting more commercial vibrancy on the ground floor, softening the streetscape, introduction of trees and planting, and the biggest thing, the judicial discrimination against the motor car into narrow circulation routes and our main civic spaces. So you start giving whole areas back to pedestrians. And you can do this incrementally as we do over the years. Volunteerism is huge as well, especially with the town councils, especially now with local government being spread more regionally as opposed to concentrated in town councils. Volunteerism is so much more important. And the biggest volunteer group in town are the tidy towns. They contribute over 5,000 hours per annum to the town in terms of picking up litter. And that's absolutely amazing, and we couldn't survive without that. And there, really, the community is the heartbeat that really pushes the town. The local authority only provide a framework. It's the community that fleshes it out. We're also a national smarter travel demonstration town, where we won competition to put in €5 million worth of infrastructure, especially cycling routeways around town. So we've interconnected 70% of the residential areas independently of the car. So kids can travel from neighbourhood to neighbourhood without meeting the car. So it makes it very safe. It's for walking and cycling. As part of the works, we increase footpaths from 3 foot to 5 metres. And once you start making bigger footpaths, this is the sort of activities that start happening. And that's it there. It's almost 3/4 of a kilometre long. But it's made a huge difference, €750,000 job. But it's transformed the area of the quay down at the harbour in terms of business and employment. The Great Western Greenway from Achill to Westport, it gives us 175,000 users annually, 90 plus local jobs to the economy, 90 plus local jobs and 7.2 million to the economy each year. It's lifted the towns of Newport and Mulranny and Westport. It's a superhighway of tourism. And hopefully next time we come to the Glenties, we'll be able to cycle here, because so many counties are getting into greenways, and there'll be a national interconnecting network. We always try and enter competitions that keeps us up there nationally, have a good relationship with the media. Our new best friend is Bobby. We're delighted he's here. And this was when we won the Irish Times competition. We commissioned a piece of sculpture. And that's it on site. And it's just finished there recently. It's a nice new public ground space in the town centre. And the final project is a community project at the Town Hall Theatre, driven by the community, given a structural framework by the local authority. They've raised $500,000, the community door to door, to go from that to our new Town Hall Theatre, and it's a 225-seat theatre. And Bobby broadcast from there last Saturday. This is what it was like on site. This is the finished product, and it's the new living room for the town. So it gives a social focus for the town core and the Octagon. Keep a strong relationship with Westport House, with Sheelan Brown, Lady Sheelan. She's the great-granddaughter of Grace O'Malley 16 times. We're not quite sure what Grace O'Malley looked like, but we found this girl on the internet. And town councils generally, they didn't have a good relationship with the aristocracy back in the 40s and 50s, but it's changed now. And we built the first set of gates interlinking the town and the house within 70 years. And to celebrate that day, we walked, the town manager and Lady Sheelan Brown walked side by side with the Clube pipe band through the gates with 1,000 people behind them up to a big party in the house. So my very last slide, you'll be glad to know. It's Rejuvenation Westport of a 20-year journey. It's all about strong local government and leadership. Connects and nurtures an ethos of public volunteerism within the community. The shared partnership creates small achievements and mutual confidence. And success breeds positivity and greater achievements. And so there's a creation of an array of town teams with differing skill sets for grasping opportunities and delivery of goals and projects. So it takes many years to achieve a unified partnership of mutual trust and pride that drives a strong unified town. This must be led by a proactive local government, and that's where it sits, because local government controls so many things. And many towns are driven through the built environment, such as architectural projects. And since our transition from town council to municipal districts, we have town leaders meetings every 6 months where the executive, the councillors, community and business leaders, we sit down and share our knowledge of our challenges and achievements for the next 6 months. Thanks very much.